First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
I have someone just woke up. Why don't they build the building way back where they're going to stick the parking spaces? She answered that question.
She did, and that actually makes sense to me.
That falls in line with the question that I botched of her about how when designers look at designing a modern city, you don't want your parking in the front, you want the parking in the back. It's kind of an aesthetics issue. Now, I don't understand that, but I do know that that I apply something like that to running a comedy club. So in a comedy club, you want the lights down nice and low. You want people in the front. Never have open seats in the front because it's not conducive to a comfortable atmosphere, which allows people to feel comfortable enough to laugh. It's a science. It's psychological, but it works. It's how I was taught to set up a comedy club.
Yeah, and
there are people that are taught to design a city a certain way,
right?
And that's what she's talking about.
And people have said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but it's playing off what you said. Basically, they said if you come into a city and you see a lot of ground level parking, it
Guess
shows
what that
the city's
is?
dying.
There was the city's dying. There was a burn down. Think about it. Think about, I hate to bring this up at Main Street in Herkimer. So when a building goes down, as beautiful as the General Herkimer was, what do? Well, we can put a parking lot in there, or the building next to the diner on Main Street. The building goes down. What do? We clean it up, and it becomes parking. Not a sign of a progressive city. It's because no one wanted to build there, so we'll just put a parking lot there. That's what we're talking about. Does that make sense?
It does. It completely makes sense to me. I also saw here that I made a note. This is getting back to something we talked about earlier in the program. I made a note because it was important. We were talking about it with Dr. Hall when we were talking to Rob Esch. And I made a note here that said, Dr. Hall, antigen variants, and I don't even know what that means.
Because
so you wanted to ask him a question.
This was a problem I had with my to-do list. I have a to-do list that I update every single day. But the problem I'm finding is, I can't read my writing, so I don't know what number 4 is. Or what did I say about number 13 on my list? Number 13 on my list was 3 videos. I have no idea what that means. That's the problem with my to-do list.
I think I know what that is. I can share it with you.
You think you know what it is?
Initiative from the sales department.
Yes, that's what it is.
Remember last week?
Oh, they wanted 3 videos.
Yeah.
Right. All right, I'm going to cross that crap off.
Done! I helped you realize you were accomplished.
I know the answer to your problem, though, Jeff, and that is we have Dr. Hall on the line right now. Doc, good morning.
Good morning. So if you can't read your handwriting, does that mean that you should have been a doctor?
It does, I think. As a matter of fact, that's what the woman at the Board of Elections, the woman at my polling place said. What do you think? You're a doctor writing like that?
Well, my take has always been the opposite. If you can't read your own handwriting and no one else can, how did you become a doctor? That's what I've always wondered. It doesn't make sense to me. Just throw an A on it.
Doc, I knew a pharmacist, and there was actually a class at Albany School of Pharmacy that taught up-and-coming pharmacists how to read the handwriting of physicians.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can imagine that it's almost like hieroglyphics. So,
well, and guess what? You don't need that anymore because it's all done electronically.
That's right. That's actually one of the main reasons was because it was so difficult to decipher handwriting, and honestly, not just doctors. It was nurses and stuff, and it really comes down to people trying to do stuff so fast that they're writing so fast. That it becomes, chicken scratch.
And I have a quick theory on this, and we'll get to COVID. But I'm somebody who, if you speak to me face to face and I can make eye contact, I will retain our conversation better. Also, if I'm watching something and I take notes, I will retain it better. And I don't have to refer to the notes. It's just the act of I'm writing through this. I'm more involved than just sitting there watching it.
And you're doing a couple things at the same time. So you're writing something down, you're not thinking about it.
So I wonder if being able to read your own handwriting in many cases is actually not the point. The making the motion with your hand and going through the action is what helps your brain retain the information while you're doing those things. Doc, am I crazy, or is there something there?
No, there actually is something there. There have been studies showing that if you are listening to something and you write it down, then you actually retain it more. I don't know whether they actually looked at whether you could read your handwriting. I will say, though, that the same studies looked at whether if you take notes by typing, and they actually found that writing it, you retained more than if you typed it.
Yeah.
By the way, and I'll get more into this, I do know what was on your list. What was on your list was the antigen test. What is that? What is the antigen test? That's one of the tests that the Comets will accept for people to attend the game on Friday night.
Yeah, so the antigen test tends to be a more rapid test than what we call the PCR test.
Okay.
The PCR test is a genetic test. It actually looks for genetic material from the virus and therefore is very specific for each individual virus. The antigenic test looks for antigens that are on the surface of the virus. And so as an example, the COVID-19 virus is a coronavirus. There are other coronaviruses, and they share antigenic signatures.
Okay.
So you may have some false positives where other coronaviruses may cross-react. It depends on how specific that test was developed.
All right, fair enough. So the antigen test is something that would be more of a rapid and available right away for you to be able to. So you could take that on Friday and bring a negative result with you to the game.
Yeah, in fact, some of antigen tests. So I equate the antigen test. This isn't exactly true, but to make it simpler to understand, it's almost like a pregnancy test.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Okay.
Oh.
Dr. Hall, tragically, we lost 2 more people in Oneida County as a result of COVID-19. A listener wondering if you're able to share, were those people vaccinated?
I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I would presume not, but I just don't know.
Okay. And there's a lot of talk that the vaccine, there are more studies out now saying that possible vaccinated people will possibly not be carriers or spreaders.
Yeah, there's a lot of good data that is coming out. It's pretty preliminary now. So the CDC did a report on about 4,000 healthcare workers and found that they carried less of the virus in their nose after they were fully vaccinated. And then there were similar tests or studies done both in Texas and in California. And then Israel also did a study looking at what's called the viral load, so it's the amount of virus that you might have in your nose after you are vaccinated. And they all showed that it was much lower, and the viral load is one of the primary determinants on whether you're going to transmit. It's how much virus you have in you and therefore can get out of you.
Doc, we are out of time. I have a ton of questions, though, to get to. Chief, I hope you call back tomorrow at 7:40. We'll get you back on the air. And have a wonderful day, and thank you, as always, for taking the time.
Thank you, everybody. Please be safe.
You do the same. Thank you.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.